Hey yo, what is a cipher?
That's the almond in your almond joy.
The knowledge of the cipher is to enlighten you.
Where you think the cipher come from? The gods. Cause you tried to jump the cipher and it goes this way.
Welcome to the Cipher. I'm your host, Sean Sotero. This week, we have a two-part episode for you. In the first half of the show, we talk to West Coast legend DJ Quik. After that, we speak to up-and-coming and heavily caffeinated Florida rapper Eric Biddines. We got to sit down with Quik backstage at SOB's nightclub in New York City following his album release show. It was one of the most fun conversations we've ever had on this show, as you'll hear. Since his debut album, Quik is the Name, in 1991, DJ Quik has been one of West Coast hip-hop's most influential rappers and producers. He's released a string of great albums, continuing with this year's The Midnight Life. But he's also overseen fantastic records from the likes of AMG, Second to None, Tony, Sugar Free, and tons more. As you'll hear, he played a lesser-known but vital role in the career of another West Coast super producer, Dr. Dre. One listen to Quik's music, and you know he's a master engineer. In fact, he's such a gearhead that when we sat down with him, the very first thing he noticed was our recording equipment. He started geeking out with my producer Josh about it before I could even open my mouth.
Oh my God, you got that 4-channel Zoom-y thing, huh?
Yeah, it takes an extra 2 channels on it if you get the thing to go up here too.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's changed my life.
My sound guys had those at the studio. I was just doing this thing for yourstruly.com. I did a remix for this group called Spoon.
Right.
And
Wait, Spoon the rock
Spoon
group?
as in spoon?
Spoon. With Vince, the new rapper Vince, what's his name?
Staples?
Vince Staples, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Vince Staples rapped on. I recorded his
Spoon
vocals.
and
Shit.
Vince Staples?
Yeah,
Wow.
DJ Quik
Wow,
remixing.
yeah.
I've been working, bro.
Yeah.
I just look like this. That's why I'm so fucking skinny, dude. I lost 10 pounds in the studio. Them fucking SSL boards, it's a microwave. It'll just draw you up.
Right.
If you don't eat, you gotta eat constantly. That's why Dr. Dre used to go, when he go hard in the studio,
Yeah.
that motherfucker he just shrink right before your eyes. This board is a microwave. It grills you like a fucking grill. So I gotta quit the studio and then just go
Yeah.
eat.
All right. So thank you for sitting down with us. We're here. This is the Cipher podcast, and
Yeah.
here with America's most complete artist,
Thank you,
DJ
bro.
Quik.
Thank you.
So I was curious. You used that line back on your second record, that title.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
I actually stole that from the DLC. That was a line on his record, No One Can Do It Better, on the album titled the same thing, No One Can Do It Better, on Atlantic Records. He said, get in line, we say, but wait for America's most complete artist, but wait, make sure you get the facts in line. Don't mess with the great, because the doc is like a 9 with a voice telling you the bullet's direction. I'm talking murder, but that's another second.
When the vocals are done, then you know it's all a matter of setting a date for America's most complete artist. But wait, make sure you keep the
Yeah, I just took it from him, and I was like, I scratched it for America's most complete artist, only because I was doing everything in the studio when it came to, production. I was playing everything and mixing it. I guess in my heart of hearts, I just wanted to be like Prince.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because I think it was right from the beginning. I think it was even on Tear It Off. You had using
That
live
was James
instruments.
Brown. That was James Brown
Yeah, it was a
sample.
super bad bass line, right?
Yeah.
That you replayed.
No, I sampled that shit off a cassette. I stole it.
I got soul, and I'm super bad. I'm love.
But we replayed all the other shit. I just took it off a cassette. That's why it's muddy off a cassette. Who was sampling off of cassettes back then? Usually you had a turntable or CD, but I got that shit off a cassette.
I could have sworn that was replayed. That's amazing.
No, it was sampled. It was analog, so it was all muddy on big analog tape. It was just the way it was EQ'd, I guess.
That's great. But yeah, so you've been using other than that, you're mixing samples and live instruments from the beginning.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Because samples just have this grit that's instantly acceptable to hip hop listeners. It's magic. Samples are magic. It's like that's the gold. Like, that's the almond in your almond joy. You dig? And without it, it's kind of just, it's just, a bass and whatever. So you blend them both together and you get the rest of the dynamics that go with that sample. Because when you go to vinyl, they back in the day, they used to roll off all the bass. So vinyls wouldn't vibrate and blow up your system, and you could print more records on a piece of vinyl. They would do a bass roll off. And when we tried to sample that into an SP1200, that bass was missing. So the record, your beat sounded light. So we had a bass player come in and replay the bass line to add the full frequency range back to that sample. That's all it was about.
Wow. And you've been working with the same guitar player for...
Robert Bacon is God.
Yeah, for a long time now.
When Prince appeared on Arsenio Hall, because Robert Bacon's he was like co-MD for the Arsenio Hall band. I think they're called.
Was this the first show or the second?
The second.
The second, the new one.
Prince told Arsenio, he looked at Bacon, he's like, damn, it looks like my brother. He's like, it looked like we look related.
Wow.
And Bacon got the message. But Bacon is just as funky as Prince. Like, they both the baddest guitar players around.
You gave Bacon a solo slot on this album.
He came in to do a Quik's groove for me, and I just laughed at him like, dude, you don't have to do me no favors. I know this music came from your heart. All I did was do the drums and a little percussion and call a piano player to come in and do, just some little articulation over the top. But Bacon wrote that from his heart. And it's a great jazz piece, but it's also a funk. It's an ode to Shuggie Otis. That's what that kind of piece is. It's like Shuggie Otis meets an ice cream truck on Jupiter. That's the way he describes it. And it sticks.
That's amazing.
It's just music, man. I mean, people say musicians are crazy, and yes, we are, because we think just way out of the box. We want music to move you forever until we don't move anymore, and we want the music to still move you after we're gone. So that's my sacrifice for life. I'm trying to make music that moves people.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Bacon and you for just a second. I was curious, how you guys work, right? Because so many of his guitar parts are really great. There's rhythm stuff, but he'll also do harmony lines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of back and forth do you have? Do you put him in a direction and just say go?
No. See, Bacon he's a trained, a musically trained artist. And so he thinks from a place of, the totality of the song. So he's already there. And my thing is, I just try to, because sometimes you have to deduct what he does, because he'll do way too much. It'll just be too big it'll just go over people's heads. Because it's brilliant to me. It's it's unflubbed and it's just perfect articulation of a line or a rhythm or riff or whatever. But sometimes it's too big. And I'll just have him just pull back a little bit, you know what I mean? And he knows how to to play a lot without playing a lot. He knows how to get in between the notes where he's felt, but there are no, he's not really heard. He's felt, and there's no holes in the music. And plus, he does this shit called counterpoint. He does counterpoint with his rhythm, so he plays in between notes. So it's this big mosaic of music that's not empty, and it's not just one driving line. It'll be a driving rhythm, and then he'll go back over it the other way and play in between. Then he'll go back and play across this way, and then he'll play across this way, and it's like he's drawing with guitar parts. It's the craziest thing ever. It's it's like a backgammon game. You know what I mean? Black and white, white, black. It's just the way it looks. If you could write one of his guitar parts out, it'd be the God's most wickedest music on a staff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's disgusting, man.
Yeah.
He's like Mozart on guitar. I don't even know how to describe this motherfucker anymore. I just know that music is not big enough for this dude anymore. Back then he mattered. Now it's music's kind of dying. We're watching record sales just break records going the wrong way for the least amount of records sold since 1991, since SoundScan, and it's continuing on that downward slide. You got people blaming the fucking streamers blaming the motherfucking record companies and saying they don't have no money when they're cashing out stock. Fucking Pandora's cashing out stock, $1.2 million a fucking month. We don't know this shit, and nobody wants to give us publishing on the shit. And the fans are saying, hey, we would buy records, but all the music sucks. So it's it's going to be this big cataclysmic thing that's going to happen with music, and I hope it hurry up and does. It's got to go all the way down and crash before it can be rebuilt. Hopefully, music will be the phoenix that rises from the ashes.
Yeah. And in the middle of that, you're releasing a new album.
In the middle of that, for no reason, just to give people something to listen to that reminds them of what we used to do. You know, I thank God I still got my voice. I still got my wits about me when it comes to arrangement. And I can still arrange the fuck out of a fucking record. Like, you know, a whole album. Even if the whole album ain't great, it's still a whole album, you know?
I mean, the interesting thing, though, is you say, like, you know, like stuff used to sound, but lyrically, one of the themes of the record is, you know, being current and not being stuck in the past.
Right. Yeah. But with the sound of the past, that's just always going to be dope. Like, the warmth is what it is, you know? And I'm talking about current events and shit. Yeah. But it's with a big fucking Neumann microphone, you know, the big German Hitler mic. I hate to say that, but that's how he was. It was that microphone. It wasn't him. He was on fucking amphetamine, but his microphone just reached people. You know, come on, man. That's how he did it. He was a rock star, motherfucking crazy motherfucker. But I use his mic. Yeah. So you know, and that, you know, Biggie used that mic. All the greats used the fucking Neumann, and it's back to that. You know, on a tape machine, it resonates. It resonates real special. And
lyrically, like, how do you keep current? Like, what are you thinking about? What are you watching to make sure that you're not stuck in the past like you're talking about?
Damn, that's a good question. I don't want to just blurt out anything. Let me think about that. Let me compose an answer. I watch my neighborhood. I watch what's going on. I watch my kids and what they're listening to and what they like. And it's like almost like my kids have to like dumb it down to enjoy what they hear. You know, these are our artists. This is our music. But the shit's like, you know, nursery rhyme shit. It's like taking it right back to the beginning. And I guess that's what it is. You know, these they're young and their music is new, so it's not perfect. It's not up to our level, and it's not supposed to be. They're in the first and second grade. I'm in college, so I can't expect them to entertain me. Yeah. And I can't go back and do kindergarten music. So, you know, just watching them, it makes me want to write from a place where my kids can respect where I'm coming from. It's not too far over their heads, but my old heads who don't even buy records anymore can go, hey, I kind of like that. You know, that's cool. I feel good about hearing that. You know, even if they don't buy it, it don't matter. It's still there.
And speaking of kids, one of your kids is literally on the record. Your son is on a couple
tracks.
Oh,
yeah. Dave is producing now.
Son, you're killing it. You're doing it just like I showed you. Remember, if these people don't like you, that means they see you as competition. They adversarial. Just keep the secrets and just let them keep on talking.
Standing on the top peak, I climb to get some leverage. Opposition in my cup, toasting down the beverage.
I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, but he kind of demanded that place because he's really talented. Like he's got to a point where he
how did you know he was ready? How'd you know he was ready to
I
be
didn't
on
want to
your
admit
records?
it. I kept walking by his room and getting blown away by what I was hearing. And so then one day I would like step in, because if it's one thing I loathe, that's a hot room. You can't think in a sweat box, you know, especially when it comes to music, because music is all fucking mental. And if you hot and sweaty, you're agitated and flustered. So he'll be in the sweat box, you know, what we call what we used to call him? Yeah, the hot box. He in there thinking, and I stepped in one day and just listened. I was like, wow. So I gave him a break and I turned on the air conditioner and let him get a little air. And I decided to go in and sit with him and like just, you know, critique him a little bit. Not, you know, I don't want to change him. I don't want to make him like me because he's making his own musical statement. But I joined in. I started jamming with him a little bit. And I showed him another side. I'm like, this is how I think to your track. And I started playing some shit that I would play against his shit. He was like, oh, Daddy, I like that. That's dope. You know, you want to keep it on there? I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do? Charge you publishing on the motherfucker? I'm going to sue you if you use it without my permission? Motherfucker, it's yours. And so he just started rocking out. You know, I got him a really dope microphone, like a Sony C800G, and he'd be in this mic booth, and he's fucking dumbing out, and he'll come back, and he'll listen. And then I took him to the big studio and turned him on to some of my engineers dudes. This guy, Steve Sletton. Sletton showed him just some tricks around the SSL board on the big console, big 4072, and got him around it. And before you know it, he's on the motherfucker mixing his own records. It's like, okay, I didn't even take to it that fast. You know what I mean? And he practiced. I let him rehearse with my band at SIR. So he's jamming. And then I fucked up and let him open for me at the House of Blues, and he upstaged me. No, I literally had to go and pull him off this, like, son, you killing it, but, you know, me and Sugar Free got to perform. So
yeah.
Can you beat it, please?
Yeah.
Like,
So
go get a drink. Go get a drink of water.
so Sugar Free, you're working with him on this record.
Yeah.
For the first time in a while.
In a while, I'm trying to get Sugar Free back to when music was fun for him.
And it's fucked up when a bitch cough while you fucking and spit your dick out. Give me more. No, quick, I'm serious.
You know, we both had some really serious tragedies. I lost my closest sister, and he lost his mother, both in the same month. You know, so we were both shell shocked. Like, we were just fucking, you know, a grenade blew up in our face, literally.
And it makes maybe a difference. It's not look that important.
Oh my God, the fallout is crazy, man. So, you know, he's trying to get his bearings, like, by fishing and shit, going fishing and you know, and feeding his kids, and you know, he's not even really thinking about rap, and I'm just trying to get him to, like, trying to get him to understand that, like, we are on the clock. Like, you can't waste too much time before you're irrelevant. Like, you gotta hit again, you know.
Yeah.
And hopefully he can find comedy in that tragedy and still be the serial comic rapper that he is, and be witty. You know what I mean? He's a respected rapper in a lot of circles. To me, he never really got his props. You know.
Well, that first album you guys did together.
It's a classic record.
No smoke. I'd rather give you my bitch tonight. You wanna hit my joint, but I'd rather let you fuck my bitch. Suck her tits and she'll suck your dick. And since one man.
Fucking Street Gospel still sells for $16.99 right now to this day. The motherfuckers still buy it.
What was that like to make? We don't have that much time, but I'm just curious.
It was super fun. I had Bacon in the studio with me. I was teaching this guy G1 how to produce. G1 was, you know, trying to produce and do beats. I had this big crazy house in fucking way out in like San Bernardino, like Rialto or whatever, and I just built a studio in it, and it was like our little world away, you know, an hour away from LA, where we could kind of think in private and not be too close to our vices.
Right.
You know, we were out there in the desert, and we just got the, you know, it's like when Jim Morrison did his peyote trip, and we were doing that.
Yeah.
His album came out of that, a peyote trip.
So unfortunately, we only have 1 minute, and I have to ask, just because it's one of my girlfriend's favorite songs. I know you did some stuff, although maybe the credits don't necessarily reflect this, on My Dad's Gone Crazy.
Yeah, man, that's Dr. Dre and Eminem letting themselves rock out with my drum sound. How you know that? I think I mentioned that.
I think you mentioned it. In
Dre gave me my props though. Dre credited me for you know, tweaking his sound a little bit, not changing it, but putting this. I put a bounce in his shit that he wasn't necessarily using. Like, Dre is either real dope swing on the drums with total syncopation, real perfect fucking perfectly tuned instruments, and staccato and mercado, all this shit all together. The drums I gave him were just a little bit loose and a little funky, and they weren't stiff, and they had a little bit of tape noise on them, some hiss, some, you know, ambience, that, you know, what we call curly cues. That's what Roger Troutman used to call them. Just little essence, like little ambiences that, you know, that make a 1-bar loop just move you like to infinity. And they jumped in with those drums and start playing this really. I was like, I listened to that shit in the studio, and I was like, dude, we're gonna make me an alcoholic. Because every time I hear this, I want to celebrate. I knew that shit was gonna do 8 million. It's like, he got his daughter on there. Okay, man. I'm like, you can't beat this. This is fucking Eminem and Dr. Dre with some DJ Quik drums. It's over. He used my drums for In the Club, and he told me, he's like, Quik, I used your clap for In the Club, right? And I heard that shit in the studio. Dude, I left the studio. After I'm like, dude, I gotta go. I left because I had to go on tour. I went to Portland, and I did a radio show. I did a radio station. I asked the dudes, I said, have y'all heard In the Club yet? Is it out yet? They was like, no, it ain't out yet. I said, beware. When you hear this record, y'all gonna lose your mind. This motherfucker blew out my speakers in the studio. I tried to play it, the CD, in my studio, and it literally pushed the woofers inside out.
Well, thanks. I'm sorry, we gotta let you go and
I didn't say that last one on the mic. Dr. Dre's music pushed my woofers inside out, man. And when it comes to drums, and we did Truth Hurts, Addictive. We low-key, if we'd have got that sample cleared, we probably could have stopped the war. Who knows? Music is amazing.
Well, thank you so much, DJ Quik. A huge fan.
Right.
It's great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. My guy. You look like John Lennon.
That was absolutely one of the most fun times I've ever had doing an interview, and I hope that came across. We only had maybe 15, 20 minutes with Quik, but it felt like 5. The time just flew by. And I'm really happy that we got to talk about a bunch of stuff. You know, he's in the middle of a press run. He just released a new album. But we got a lot of stuff that he hadn't really talked about in other interviews. His working with Sugar Free. You should definitely hear that album if you haven't. It's really kind of a underrated West Coast classic. We talked a lot about his relationship with his guitarist, Robert Funkster Bacon, who he's worked with for years. I don't know if you guys remember on one of his records, even early on, he was mocking people saying, Bacon only works with me. Why don't you guys go get Stan the Guitar Man to produce your record or some shit? It's good to hear him go in depth about that partnership. Also, how about that Hitler impression? That was really, that was something. This interview was all the more exciting because of when it happened. It was 1:30 in the morning. He just finished like an hour-long show of, half his old hits and half stuff from his new album. And he came in, and from the word go, as you can hear, he was just excited and engaged to talk to us. I will never forget the moment where he got so excited about In the Club, where you can hear this. He actually just gets up, pops up out of his seat, and starts walking around the room yelling about it. And the crazy thing is, he's such a good engineer, is so attuned to it all the time, that he remembered after that to come back and give his answer on mic. I hope this was as fun for you all to listen to as it was for us to do. The second half of the show, we talked to Florida rapper Eric Biddines. Biddines has a new album out called Planet Coffee Bean 2. It's a futuristic imagining of a world of purple goldfishes and elephant wings and all sorts of crazy stuff that you'll get to hear him talk about. He is, unsurprisingly, given the album name, a huge fan of coffee, which is one of the first things we start talking to him about. The fact that he wrote an ode to coffee, where most rappers would profess their love of weed, shows his willingness to try things from a different angle. Even Eric's songs about fairly normal Southern rap stuff, cars and strippers, go in a completely new direction. So now, live from Planet Coffee Bean, here's our talk with Eric Biddines. So, for our audience who might not know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're up to, where you come from?
I'm Eric Biddines. I'm a Southern artist from South Florida. I make music. I drink coffee. I got some pretty cool Instagram pictures, above average, if I say so myself. And if you're a fan of classic Southern hip-hop and music, you'll enjoy me.
Nice. And so you actually, speaking of the Southern thing, you actually have a song on your new record called South.
Doing this right here for the dirty side. Doing this right here for the dirty side.
Yes.
Yeah, and that got me thinking about when you were growing up in South Florida, what kind of Southern hip hop did you like? What artists like?
Growing up in the 90s, some music, you got like a lot of booty shaking music. Uncle Al and Uncle Luke and 69 Boys. And then, we got all of the Southern classics like Outkast, Goody Mob. We was real open and supportive of our regions. But it's pretty much a melting pot. And for me, Outkast definitely did it, hands down.
So you eventually started making music, your new record, Planet Coffee Bean 2.
Yeah. We just, October 7th, released that. The day we celebrating it here in New York. And, we reintroducing it to everybody else, getting them to catch up on us.
Yeah. And so I have to ask, I know you're a huge fan of coffee. So how is New York City coffee as compared to Florida?
I like New York City coffee. I really respect the actual process of coffee here. Like, you see far more like boutique coffee shops where each cup is special. But I believe y'all really fans of bold. Y'all really like the bold, like extra dark roast beans. So I'm more of a smooth breakfast blend type of dude. I like to add a little cream and some sugar to it.
Not as much cream and sugar as you talk about on the record, though.
She make me coffee how I like to want the strong blend. 15 sugars, 4 cream, I know it's on when. She bring the song down.
Oh, no.
You have that line about, what is it, 15 creamers or something?
Yeah. I used to when I was just a fan of the taste. But as you grow into the actual culture of coffee, you start wanting to appreciate the beans more. Like, I watched a documentary on them, like just how they even... just the beauty of it coming from a berry, a piece of fruit, and like breaking it down, and it make you really want to say, all right, I'm actually kind of disrespecting the whole process in the bean by, adding so much to it. And I definitely recognize that y'all know that. Like, I see y'all, how y'all order y'all cups. You're like, all right, I want a large, dark, and y'all just take it and go and just start drinking. I'm like, whoa, they ain't do nothing. They just trusted their life and their intestines with that cup. So, I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and the song Coffee Cup, it's funny because I was listening to it on the way here, and it's like, I thought it was funny because it's kind of like so many rappers will have like love songs to weed and stuff like that, and I feel like Coffee Cup is sort of your version of that.
Coffee in my cup, I hope you understand. It's more like therapy whenever in my hand.
It fits in that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I said it as good as you just did. It was just a personal thing, and I find that people respect like your personal opinion more than anything. It wasn't like I was trying to tap into this untapped market of, coffee. I just want to make something I like, and I want to express it and share it. And, it's similar to how you say with the weed thing. That's huge now. Like, everybody got a weed song that practice.
Yeah. But the Planet Coffee Bean concept isn't just about coffee, right? You actually view it in kind of a sci-fi way as like a whole actual planet.
Oh, yeah. I like that word, sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi fan, Harry Potter. It's this alternative universe I created mentally, and it's for me to be able to, produce at my own space. And that was pretty much the meaning behind it. Definition is the alternative way of living. So just so you can take it in your own twist of whatever else you're doing. You could be a swimmer or a painter. You just might want to paint with urine. And that's a own little taking. You could come on Planet Coffee Bean, and you could do that if the resources of urine is available. I don't know how much that's going on for on the black market.
Nice. What will we find out more about the planet and in future projects and stuff?
Oh yeah, I got elephant wings. I can't even say when that's coming out, but definitely next year. And the elephant on Planet Coffee Bean is actually a creature that I'm expanding on. So as we go forward, I'll start touching on little things from my personal mind that we have on Planet Coffee Bean as we go.
Another creature that's unusual on this record, you have a song called Purple Goldfish.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the water? Has anybody ever seen it? I've been waiting till the moon come. Purple goldfish dreaming. I've been ready for
The purple goldfish is another mythical creature. You see that in the digital art on the deluxe version.
That's great. And another thing on the record, you have a song. It's very timely now because it's the 30th anniversary of this show starting. Claire Huxtable.
Oh yeah, Claire Huxtable. I just feel like Claire was just like the perfect woman, and especially when I wrote that song, like the world wasn't really acknowledging it like that, so I had the sample from the producer, Danny D.
One of her most famous speeches you sample in that song from the first season when she reads Eldon the Riot Act.
Serve who?
Serve him.
Oh, serve him! As in serve your man?
Well, yeah.
Let me tell you something, Eldon.
Yeah, and when I actually wrote all the lyrics first, and I had to find like a piece on YouTube that really fit the song, and that it was that space that I was like, no, I can't just keep rapping no more. I have to really sell this point of Claire, like just for those who don't know. And I found that piece, and it was just like it just defined like why she's so incredible, and she's the woman of America.
Nice. And so sound-wise, your stuff, you get a really interesting sound, and there's this mix that I wanted to ask you about, which is like, in terms of melodies and song structure and stuff, I get kind of a very like soul music, like 60s, 70s vibe. But the actual sounds on the record, the keyboard sounds or drum sounds and stuff are very modern.
Yeah. I started wanting like everything organic, like trying to stay away from synths and just using like, organs, pianos. But I felt like it was predictable for my style. So I'm a fan of like clashing images and like stuff just not fully making sense. So then I end up going back to, some of the samples, some of the experimental sounds. Like we'll reverse certain instruments just to, switch it up and make it feel modern, because I don't want to be, too outdated to have this classic, sound defined around me. I want it to be innovative at the end of the day.
You were talking about how you have this sort of sci-fi side and
Yeah.
but also one of the things about the record is you have a lot of very realistic, sort of down-to-earth situations lyrically that you portray in the songs,
Yeah.
even though there is kind of a fantastical side. And so that's pretty different than a lot of hip hop, which is very like perfect and fantastical, and I'm the superhero all the time. Why'd you choose to go that route? Kind of keeping a little more everyday, a little more down to earth.
I think people like when you vulnerable, like when you able to be open and publicly challenge your insecurities. So I kind of enjoy, even just in regular conversation, like just bringing up topics that's not normally comfortable to talk about, even if it's in a joking way, or just highlight on issues that's not popular at the moment. So being open and vulnerable like that, and trying to find ways, because I'm a fan of music. So when you're a fan of music, you hear so much, so it's harder for you to even be impressed by like certain subject matters and topics, because you done heard it already. You already got your favorite love song. So if I could find a way to tap into that same emotion but approach it differently, and I do it like that, like with the Claire Huxtable song. Like at the end of the day, it's just a admiration of a woman, which has been done forever, but people fail to put it in that category in a good way, and they take it as, oh, this was like a tribute of some sort. So that's a secret sauce of mine that you just exposed to the world.
Sorry about that. And there was, another one song that is pretty, down to earth, realistic, is your song "Stripper" documentary. It's kind of a life story.
See, I was pregnant with a child, barely 15. Molested by my stepfather, he would threaten me. I told my mother, she insisted that I lied. See, the tears never stopped going in 7 years. I cried.
Was that inspired by any real life people you knew?
Yeah. It was inspired by a friend of my sister. They told me the story of this stripper, and it had a different side to it. In South Florida, like the stripping scene is like, donuts. Like it's there. So when I got this story about her, like, I think it's so common for us to like know strippers or be related to them or just see them like every day. Like they really buy like regular groceries and stuff. So that's normal for us. So I want to tell a different perspective on it, kind of not make you feel sorry for them, but if you were to understand why someone would make that decision, then I think that'll be interesting. Because, you know, it's been stripper songs, and I still want it to be sexy, but at the same time, you just, like, actually thinking. Like, I'm a fan of storytelling. So that was my plan with that particular song, and I hope we could do a visual for that. I think that'd be interesting, because nobody actually documented, like, in a song, like, a stripper's life, at least from the perspective that I was telling.
Yeah. And so going from, you know, your take on the song about strippers to your take on another Southern common thing, which is a song about cars.
Yeah.
You have 2s and 4s. You're very particular. You say you only like Chevys between, I think it's 77 and 90.
I'm talking 77s on to the 1990s. If you ain't know like I do.
1977 to 1990, because that's when the box Chevy Caprice was made, and it have to be the box edition, and we call it the box. So 1990 was the last one. Then they went into like the bubbles, which I'm not really a fan of the bubble style Caprice. So I want to tell that specific window, because everybody who have a box Chevy that's in that window will relate to it, and they'll know what it is.
What is it about those cars?
I don't really know. Just seeing it, it had like the interior was just this modern spaceship style when you in it, like from Star Trek, like the old Star Trek from like 1991. Like the inside of the box Chevy looked like that, and it's big and it's minimalistic far as like the actual concept of it, the lights, you know, just everything, and the console. And we grew up seeing a lot of that, so, you know, majority of that is just from it being a regional thing, like a Southern thing.
It definitely is. We had Ritz in here a week or two ago, and his first hit was the Yellow Wolf song "Box Chevy."
Yeah. The South loves Chevys. Box Chevys, like Rick Ross got a box Chevy song, like.
I started in a box Chevy. Now my watch a $1.80.
You can't be from the South and not acknowledge, you know, the box Chevy. Like, it's almost disrespectful in a transportation type of way.
And I know your biggest, or, you know, the songs of yours that have gotten the most attention, there are 2 of them on the record where you talk about your time in the music industry, but you have this metaphor of slavery that runs through it, of being a slave on a plantation.
Massa had me plowing up the ground, working till the sun come up, cause we had laid the railroads down.
You're not the first artist to use that comparison. Obviously, Prince famously wrote "slave" on his face when he was fighting with, I think it was Warner Brothers and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a pretty loaded metaphor. What inspired you to do it?
Growing up in the South and seeing it so much, but then also the take on, you know, the industry, like us finally getting to a point to where we're able to see some of the things that go on from the inside out, and you start understanding the politics, you start understanding the lack of understanding from people who think they understand, and it could be frustrating. You end up becoming a slave to just the process of wanting to be successful. I think a slave definitely can relate to it. Not that it's equal to what slaves went through, but a slave could definitely relate to, you know, wanting to get out of a situation or change what people say can't be changed.
Have you had anyone sort of bristle at you using that metaphor of saying, like, okay, well, I understand you're, you know, frustrated, but chattel slavery is this whole different thing. It's not a good comparison.
Oh, yeah. I had, when the song originally dropped, I don't even know the media publication we sent it to, but they didn't want to get behind it or cover it because it was like, it was almost offended that somebody in 2014 was talking about this topic that we're supposed to be behind. And then, like, immediately right after that, like, that Donald Sterling issue came out like a week after that. and it was some other things than all the things going around with the polices and whatnot. So right at the tail end of me releasing that song, when it was risky, like this negative wave of, you know, this issue like came to the forefront, and it let me know that it was a topic that is there, but at the same time that people still afraid of, and that I wasn't wrong for, you know, tapping into something that we, you know, eventually want to get over completely. You know, you kind of be a little iffy, you know, and I'm a critic myself, so, you know, I take in like all the information I get from somebody. Hip hop music is older now, so you got like people from 30 to 40 years old, like that really lived in those time, that seen certain issues, like understand what it was. And the new generation, they're blind to a lot that happened in the industry. They're not teaching it in the school systems. So somebody 17 years old, they heard of Harriet Tubman, but they don't. The relatives that experience similar things not around to really tell them those stories. So you know, it's something that not should be a topic of main discussion, but I felt it was important for the moment.
Yeah. And on the record, you know, on that song and others, you do a lot of singing.
Yeah,
What's your history? Do you grow up singing, or?
I think so. I mean, I particularly remember when my mom used to do these contests with us, with me and my sisters, like, and whoever sung the song best, she'd give them $1. So
Good motivation.
Yeah. And most of the time, everybody got $1 if it was just raining dollars that day. Well, if it wasn't, then it definitely was a winner. And I don't think I was always the winner. But R&B was in like Motown and soul, Al Green, Luther Vandross, Curtis Mayfield. Like that was what I really grew up on, because I grew up in a Jehovah Witness household. So it wasn't really a lot of rap around. I probably didn't get into rap to maybe like 11 and 12. And before that, I only heard like, you know, like Warren G, Snoop Dogg, the West Coast. I remember being big at that time on radio. But outside of that, I had like very little knowledge of, you know, the rap culture altogether.
And when did you start getting more into hip hop?
I'd say about maybe 10 years old. I think 3 6 Mafia was my first CD I purchased.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's quite an introduction.
Yeah, I had a homeboy. He was a 3 6 Mafia fan, and I didn't know what to get, but I had like $16, and that's what CDs was going for at Circuit City, that don't even exist no more. And I just got what I felt like I was supposed to get because he was a fan. So yeah, 3 6 Mafia, and after that I started just doing my research, and Southern music was just the closest thing to get.
Yeah, and you mentioned you grew up in a Jehovah's Witness household. What kind of influence do you think that had on the music you're making now, on your perspective on the world?
I think that it plays a big role because I think I question so much as far as like the organization of religion. So it forced me to question like just more things in general. Like I question things I shouldn't even be questioning, but it keep my, you know, my motor going in my mind. And I think I have like an expansion on just ideas just from being growing up in a place where you wasn't sure what you was being taught was the right thing, and it was just uncomfortable to live in. It was uncomfortable to be a Jehovah Witness in the South, where everybody's already looking at you weird, and just for you knocking on the door, like it was uncomfortable. Like I used to get in trouble because we couldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance, and like teachers would like send you to the office if you didn't. So it was uncomfortable.
Right. Did you do any of the canvassing and stuff?
Oh yeah, we did the whole thing, like everything, knocking on doors, like the 3-4 Bible studies and the watchtowers. Like we was fully into it. My whole family had like 5 generations of Jehovah Witnesses.
Wow. Did It's sort of an odd thing I was just thinking about. Did canvassing from an early age, did that make you more comfortable as a performer in public life? You're like, if you're performing, like, well, I've already knocked on strangers' doors, getting up on stage is nothing.
Actually, I wish it helped me. It made me even scary, I guess. I mean, I wasn't a talker. I didn't start talking till like 13, like being open enough to just like have conversations. And I think now I'm just full of just wanting to run my mouth that I talked too long. Y'all probably wanted me to leave like 10 minutes ago. So I was observing a lot at a young age, and just being older, I understand like how much I was actually soaking in.
One of the things that a lot of articles mention about you is that you don't drink or do drugs, and that connects to Outkast, who you mentioned a little earlier, right?
Yeah, Andre had a line, no drugs, alcohol, so I could get the signal clear.
God works in mysterious ways, so when he starts the job of speaking through us, we be so sincere with this here. No drugs or alcohol, so I can get the signal clear as day. Put my Glock away.
At that time, I thought drugs and alcohol was the cool thing. When I tried, I was like at 14, like, we smoking Black and Miles or whatever, even picking up cigarette butts just to look cool. And when Andre said that, it was surprising, because you should have got, at that time for me, you would have got picked at for like, oh, you don't want to try that? And him just being bold, I was like, man, that's cool. Somebody, because I don't even like the way this beer tastes anyways. It's nasty. So it just gave me a reason to do what I didn't want to do anyways.
That's really great. And I think one of the main things is, I was impressed with your sci-fi angle on a lot of stuff, and I feel like there's a long tradition, some people call it like Afrofuturism, of essentially African American sci-fi stuff stretching back to like Sun Ra and kind of this vision of space, and it's tangled up with the future but also with the past, and it's a very like long history of art. Do you feel yourself as a part of that?
I think so. I never really looked at it from that perspective. Like, you just gave me some homework to do on myself. But, I'm just a fan of, at the end of the day, just not living in reality. And I think out of it all, like, I don't really have a specific thing in sci-fi. Like, long as it's a alternative universe or something. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's refreshing. It's like a satisfaction for me to feel like it's other people really believe that these things exist. And I always make you say, something got to be going on. It's definitely aliens. It's definitely a Milky Way with Milky Way candy bars. That's where we even got that from. An alien made that, and the government got hold of the U.S. patent of it, and distribution and the business came out. But really, Milky Way is from aliens, just north of Pluto.
And on that note, other than trying to get the patent for Milky Way, what else are you up to now?
I'm in the process of doing more touring, like just hitting these markets. Cause I'm good in my region, and it's a lot of catching up that the world, I would like the world to want to do, and part of that's gonna be on me getting out on the road and experiencing other markets and people, and taking advantage of platforms like this way. I have various people from all over hearing my voice, so that's the goal right now. And doing some more visuals and visiting y'all the next time I come up here to New York.
Definitely, we're looking forward to it. Well, Planet Coffee Bean 2, everyone should definitely check it out. Thanks so much for coming through, Eric. I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all.
So that was our talk with Eric Biddines. I found the section where we talked about his use of slavery as metaphor really fascinating. That came up in the news last year when Kanye released his song New Slaves on kind of a similar theme. At the time, I wrote an article about that song and that metaphor and talked to a bunch of people about it. So it's kind of in the middle of that discussion trying to tease out things. And so it was very interesting for me to hear those same ideas expressed from another angle. It was also really fascinating for me to hear how big an influence one line of an Outkast song had on his whole life. Just really, really incredible that he gave up drugs and alcohol simply because of one thing Andre 3000 said on a record. I think it's a testament to the power of hip-hop and the effect it can really have on people's lives. Eric was a nice guy, super fun to talk to, a great accent, and definitely the most punctual rapper I've ever met in my whole life. He showed up even before I did to the interview. We'll be back next Tuesday with an interview with No Malice, formerly Malice, who with his brother Pusha T formed one of the greatest rap duos of all time, the Clips. We talk about his whole career, his relationship with Pharrell, his work with his brother, his religious awakening that saw him put his days of coke rap behind him and make music with a higher purpose. We even talk about the lyric he regrets the most in his whole career. Join us next week to hear the whole show. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to our show on iTunes. While you're there, leave a review. The more reviews we get, the better chance we have of getting amazing guests like DJ Quik and Eric Biddines. You can find our whole archives at theciphershow.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Cipher Show. The Cipher is created and written by Sean Sotero. It's produced and engineered by Josh Cross at Crosstown Studios, and in this case, in the basement of SOBs.
And when we tried to sample that into an SP1200, that bass was missing.
Our brand new website, theciphershow.com, is created by Paul Dice.
You want to keep it on there? I'm like, yeah, what am I going to do? Charge you publishing on the motherfucker? I'm going to sue you if you use it without my permission? Motherfucker, it's yours.
Our theme song is by 42 Ghosts.
God's most wickedest music on a stop, you know what I mean?
We'll see you next time around on The Cipher.
Ridiculous.